thanks for joining me today. Welcome to Table Talk. We like to dive into the stories behind business families and the journeys that they've been on. Try and find things that we can learn from around succession, leadership, walking into a business that you may have known your whole life, but now in a very different perspective. So really excited to be joined by Jason and Kevin Miller with ServiceMASTER of Edmonton. They've been a leading provider of commercial cleaning and disaster recovery services in Edmonton for probably the last 15 plus years. We'll let them get into a little bit of that soon. But first, let's start by sharing a bit about yourselves. What do you do with the company? How long have you been there? Okay. We'll start with you.
I'll start things off. So I've been with ServiceMASTER for technically this last year was my 10th year. Wow. My first 4 years were kind of fake years because I was in university, so I wasn't working full time. But I still got the 10-year award this year. Okay. I've been 7 years full-time. First 2 years, I was a project manager, so I learned the construction part of our business. And then the last 5 years, I've been our business development manager. So almost all client-facing. It seems like every year, though, some more things come on my plate that probably aren't under the business development role. Mm-hmm. But that's kind of how a family business goes. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so Kevin, I'm 12 years, but same idea, fake, because it's the first 4 years was while I was in school for engineering at the U of A. Mm-hmm. I've been a project manager the whole time, so kind of ran projects from disasters in Fort McMurray back in 2016 up until this past summer in Jasper. So, wow. And now my role is changing a little bit. I'm taking probably half as many projects as I used to, and I'm running a little bit more of the operations side, and any sort of weird special project that nobody else wants to do, I guess, gets thrown my way. Okay. So.
And let's maybe start about the kind of the history. So I understand it was your father, Grant, who started the business about 15 years ago. Can you share a little bit about kind of what inspired him to do that? How did he get into being like, this is a business I'm going to start or acquire the franchise? Like, what did that look like?
Yeah. So 22 years ago, actually. My dad was, he had worked for Wawanesa Insurance. He was there for just under 20 years doing claims. So he did the adjuster side of insurance claims and worked with a lot of contractors there. He was the claims manager for Wawanesa for several years. And then one year he decided, why don't I try to be the contractor side? I know a lot of the people in the industry, the insurance industry. I know a lot of people at Wawanesa. If I go start a contractor, maybe I can get work from all these different insurance companies and then try to build the business from there. So kind of that's where he started. You want to touch on kind of where they started with people? And
yeah, they basically started. So my dad actually had a partner originally. So they were 50-50 split and they had one employee. So for the most part, they did the demos themselves. They took the calls themselves at night. And I don't really remember when we were kids that well, like him going out in the middle of the night. But it must have happened because they didn't have any staff, and we're a 24-hour business. So I don't know. I don't remember it ever happening, but I think it must have happened quite frequently. And then they slowly built up over the years, and I guess I joined in 2012. So by that time they were in their 10th year, and they had quite a bit of staff by then. So he was no longer even taking projects at that point. He was just running the business. So and he bought out his partner somewhere probably around that 2010 or 2008. So then it was just him for the last 10, 12 years.
Okay. Well, it's a pretty big change going from an insurance claims adjuster into actually taking on the calls and doing the construction. Like
a lot of similarities, but also a lot of big differences. So you're boots on the ground, whereas they're kind of in the office making sure everything goes okay. Yeah. But it was a good change. I think he's really, really enjoyed it, and we're pretty lucky we got the opportunity to work in the business as well.
Nice. And so do either of you remember that change happening? Like, do you remember him going to from going to work in a suit to putting on his coveralls or whatever that transition might have looked like?
I guess more than me. I would have been 8. So we were pretty young. I don't really remember exactly. I don't remember him being an adjuster really. So and he kind of always has run the business as like a family first kind of thing. Like he's never missed sports, like never missed school plays. Like if it was a 2:00 school play, he'd be there, and then he'd probably work in the evening to catch up. But even with our staff now, it's very much if like you have a kid's soccer game at 11 o'clock, your kid's in high school, and go to it and then work later, catch up. Like we're not going to force you to miss something. Yeah. So I don't really remember too much.
No memory for me. My whole life, it's been ServiceMASTER. So there wasn't really the insurance world memories for me. I do remember playing hide and seek and stuff in the shop when I was little, but nothing in the insurance world.
Nice. That was actually going to be my next question, like favorite memories kind of growing up in the business, like favorite memories, embarrassing stories about your brother
I think we had a
Where do you
pretty
wanna go?
funny one, the liquor claim that one time when we were really young.
Yeah, we had a liquor claim that came in years ago. We were I don't know how old we would have been. Not drinking age for sure, but this was all basically just it was all like it couldn't be drank. It was all garbage. So we ended up we're like, well, we'll keep the bottles and recycle them. So we ended up emptying out, I don't know, thousands of booze bottles.
Okay,
and that's when I learned that you can't open a bottle upside down or else it explodes on you. So, it's kind of a cool.
It was a family weekend activity.
family
Hey, we got a
weekend
claim at a liquor store. There's about 1,000 bottles of alcohol we got to get rid of. You guys want to come pop some caps and dump beer into a drain?
Yeah.
That was a pretty funny one. And then just always coming to the shop, pretending to clean fans, doing sweeping up the floors, all that kind of stuff. Lots of good memories when you were younger.
Pretending to clean.
Yeah, when I was little, I was kind of like, I'll sweep the floors a little bit, but then I'm going to go try to hide somewhere so I don't have to do this anymore.
That's funny. And so you took the business route. I think you went to U of A, did a business degree there, and then joined the business directly, or kind of as you were doing school.
Yep.
What made you go that route? Like, did you ever think about doing anything other than the family business too? A couple questions there.
So originally, I just wanted to do. I've always kind of been interested in businesses in general. I had that opportunity, so it was a pretty hard thing to say no to.
Yep.
So I thought I'll take business school. I originally actually wanted to do accounting. So my first 2 years were accounting major. I went to the office for a summer to do some accounting work for ServiceMASTER. Realized pretty quickly that I don't think my life was going to be in accounting.
Yep.
The one thing that kind of set me up for failure there is that was the year that we had the Fort Mac fire happening. So we had 1,400 employees working for us, and I got to start doing payroll and accounts receivable. So that didn't really make accounting the brightest thing in the world for me. So quickly switched to marketing. Okay. I've always been a big people person, so I thought I could probably benefit the business by doing a marketing degree and kind of going that route. And then kind of been history ever since then.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then you went through the engineering route.
I did, yeah.
Also, did you always intend to join the firm? Did you think of doing other things? What did that look like?
Yeah, so I did. Yeah, I went to U of A for civil engineering. I actually originally I was gonna be a pilot. That was kind of my original plan, but pilot doesn't really give you the best lifestyle, I guess, or family style. So decided engineering. Kind of when I was probably about grade 10, I decided engineering is what I was gonna do. Potentially with doing architecture after. And then when I graduated in 2016, there wasn't a lot of opportunities for engineering in Alberta. Like that was kind of right after the oil crash. Like, for example, I think when I went in 2012, 98% of the graduates were getting hired. When I graduated, it was like 10%. Wow. So it kind of just made sense to get into the family business, see what it was. And that was also the same year that Fort Mac happened. So I was kind of diving right into that and kind of enjoyed it. Kind of got to take a bunch of projects and it just was interesting. Every day is different. Every project's different. So kind of stayed with it and now haven't really looked back.
Yes. So let's actually, you've mentioned the Fort Mac one a couple of times. It kind of came up in conversation already a few times, as well as the Jasper one that I know you guys played a big role in. Can you talk a little bit about what that means to your business and what it's like taking on a project like that? Like the scale and issues and scope is probably way different than the day-to-day side of things.
Sure. Yeah, I can probably touch on it a bit. So yeah, so we respond to cat losses, is what we call them. So it's catastrophic response. I think they classify anything over $1 billion ends up in that category, any event. So yeah, Fort Mac in 2016 was well over $1 billion. So we did end up responding. We cleaned the hospital there, a bunch of schools, lots of businesses. It is interesting to respond to those because you don't know what you're going into. Like when I actually went there the first night, I slept in my truck because there was no accommodations. And we actually got evacuated. We got there, cleaned for 4 days and got re-evacuated. Oh, wow. So it is interesting. Those are kind of, you never know what's going to happen. We're also staffing up from maybe 100 guys to sometimes like Jasper, we had about 300. Fort Mac, we had about 1,400. So we're hiring a lot of staff at that point. And the more staff you hire, the more problems you have and all sorts of stuff. And even just getting consumables and all that kind of stuff, it's in a different city. Yeah. So there's lots of issues, but they are super interesting and it is a cool experience for anybody in our business. I think everybody likes to respond to the cats. We responded in PEI too after Hurricane Fiona. I didn't personally go because that was pretty much right when my baby was born. Okay. So it didn't work out, but we had, I think, 5 PMs that went there. Drove a bunch of guys from Alberta out to PEI. I didn't realize that Florida's closer than PEI to drive. So I had to do the math on it. I was like, there's no way. So I put it in GPS. It's like, yeah, it is a little bit closer to drive to Florida.
That's fascinating.
So that's a long drive, but yeah, the cat response is really cool. It's kind of one of the biggest parts of our business too. So we love responding to anything that's any sort of event for sure.
Yeah, we always try to build our business around those cats happening because we know it's going to happen. You're going to have the amount of people. You're going to need additional project managers because when you have something like that happen, you can't send everybody. We still got all of our clients we work with at Edmonton. And if you send everyone, you might do well in the short term, but in the long term, you're going to get all these companies dropping you as a preferred contractor. Mm-hmm. So they're always good events. We get to go kind of help the people of the city. Jasper specifically, we had people from Jasper pulling us over and thanking our staff for being there. Fort McMurray, there's tons of people that were kind of dependent on us to get back into their homes and everything like that. So it's definitely a feel-good thing. Mm-hmm. Major learning curves every time you go to one. They're always different. Getting hotels is always a fun thing. Trying to work in Jasper and you can't get a hotel anywhere close to it. So you're staying in Hinton. Next thing you know, Hinton, there's the shutdown in town. So they kick you out of hotels there. So then you're in Edson. Oh, wow. There's always issues that go on, but I know a lot of our staff really enjoy it. And it's kind of what we're always waiting for it to happen because, that's the big events, and we got a ton of people ready to go do it. Yeah.
But probably almost completely separate from that core line of business where you're doing things that are a little bit more routine, a little bit more structured.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say there's a ton of routine and structure in our business. No. We try to get our procedures and stuff that way, but it's crazy. You could have one day where you got 10 guys sitting at home. Everybody's saying, oh, no, we might have to lay people off soon here if we don't get busier. And the next thing, something happens and you got 20 temporary workers working for you the next day. So it's a tough business that way, but it's something we've learned over the years, and it kind of makes it hard for competition to excel in those areas as well. Yeah.
Nice. So we didn't talk about this at the introduction there, but so your dad started the business. What's his role today? Is he still pretty involved? Is he still pretty engaged? What does things look like there?
So he's his title's president. He never really has cared too much about titles though. So he kind of handles all areas of the business. He's very involved from kind of overseeing everything. He doesn't really do a lot of our programs and specific like actual detailed work in the day, but he's overseeing everything, checking in on cash flow, checking in on receivables, making sure everybody's sales are going okay. He tries to be at the office as much as he can, but he also likes traveling. Okay. So he's either in Arizona a lot of the time or Vernon, kind of enjoying the sunshine and getting out of Edmonton. But you email him at any time, he responds in 5 minutes, and he's taking care of things and watching over everything. So for us, it would be, if he wasn't involved, I don't know how things would really go. That we'd probably be able to handle it, but there'd be some major learning curves. And it's great having that mentor and guidance from lots of different perspectives. Yeah.
Nice. And kind of maybe from growing up in the business and working with him through the years, are there any kind of like major lessons that he passed on to one or both of you that kind of stick out?
Major lessons? That's kind of a tough one. Like there's lots of little lessons here and there, and I don't know, you probably don't realize that they're even a lesson until years later, which is kind of weird. But like we've always kind of treated our staff really well. Like that's kind of, and he's always kind of prided on the like, if I don't know how to do it, let's hire someone that does that's better than me, really. So we've always kind of hired staff to do that, and whenever staff needs something, we always try to help them out with it. So
I think to build on that, he's kind of taught us to treat people how you want to be treated, no matter who you're dealing with. It could be your brand new field staff. It could be your highest paid senior project manager. It could be your sub-trade that you use, your client that you're working for. Treat them exactly how you want to be treated in the same way, and it's probably going to benefit you in the long run. I don't think he's ever yelled at a single employee in 22 years in business. He always responds to people's emails saying thank you and appreciate what you guys are doing. I think it's kind of just that humble leadership that's really rubbed off on us, and it rubs off on the whole organization. That would be, I'd say, is the biggest learning curve, is appreciate everybody you got working for you and treat people how you want to be treated.
Yeah, so just being a little humble and really looking at treating people like humans.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah, no matter who it is. If it's a sub-trade you've used once, or if it's a client you're getting tons of work from in a year, treat those people the same way, because you need them, right? We wouldn't be successful if it wasn't for all those different companies we work with every year.
Yeah. And based on your introductions, like there's a bit of a gap between when you both joined the business. What is it like working together as a family or as brothers? Like what are some of the challenges that just come through that? Well,
we haven't really, like for the first kind of 10 years, we haven't worked together a lot, because it's like the project managers it's kind of like running their own little business. Like they're in charge of their files. They do their own marketing. They get their own files. They dispatch their own guys. So it's pretty isolated. Like you work kind of on your own. Like it is like your own business. And if you have to work at night, you work at night. If you need to take a day off for something, you take a day off for something. So we've kind of started maybe working together more in the last probably year or 2 years. So far it's been good. We kind of just keep on top of each other, let each other do what we're better at. So if it's something to do with marketing or some people relation stuff, give it to Jason. I'm more introverted, I'd say, and he's a little more outgoing. So give him that stuff. And if it's something technical, I usually take the lead on it.
Yeah, he takes the hard questions. I take the easy questions. I go out for lunches. He gets to go to flooded job sites.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing working together. We don't, like you said, we don't do a ton together in the day-to-day. He's more on the operations side. I'm more on the kind of sales and client side.
Yep.
But definitely you got the Sunday dinners. You hear us all talking about work the whole time. That kind of gets a little bit too much sometimes. Our mom likes to step in and say, "Okay, can we talk about something other than mold at dinner, please? Like, can we just talk about something else?" So it's tough in those ways. But other than that, I think we've done a pretty good job separating business from personal life. Try to get away on vacation and stop talking about work. But big loss happens. Obviously, we're all kind of congregating and figuring out how are we going to do this? Does somebody have to go home and handle this or what? But we're lucky. We're so different that he's engineering, I'm business. He can really excel in areas that I'm not very good at. And I think I excel in some areas maybe Kevin's not as comfortable or good at.
Yeah. So you guys can kind of know each other's strengths a little bit better. So how you've known each other your entire lives. Like that's probably one of the main advantages.
Yeah. Yeah. They're a little bit opposite. So yeah, it definitely works pretty good. So
yeah.
Okay. And so you mentioned you're really good at kind of balancing those family dynamics and keeping business and personal separate sometimes. Any kind of things that have worked really well that you can share, or any kind of like, what do you do that works? What do you do that doesn't work?
Well, I think kind of bringing our spouses into our life has helped a little bit. Kevin's wife is a nurse. My girlfriend's a teacher. Okay. They definitely don't want to be talking about water damage and fire damage at the kitchen table. So kind of having them around and separating that part of the business has got us talking about it less. But something that works, 8 to 4:30, focus on business. When you're done, maybe leave it for the next day. If you have a quick chat on your way home, you can do that, but try not to do it late into the nights or on the weekends. I think we do a pretty good job doing that.
Yeah, for the most part. We're a 24/7 business. So it is tough. Like we are seeing stuff at all times, but we have lots of people at our office too. Like we're not a small office, so like I don't go on call anymore. I did for years, but I haven't been the last couple of years. So we get to kind of keep stuff to the 8 to 4:30 and then respond as needed kind of thing. But yeah, nothing. But definitely having the family, like the wives around and the girlfriends around, helps. They don't want to talk about stuff as much. So
yeah, so they kind of keep
us
accountable.
Keep us accountable and on track of not talking about work.
Yeah, I think mom's happy there's some extra girls around.
And is it just the two of you and your like any other siblings?
No, just the two of us.
No, okay. And so you mentioned Kevin that you have you're a newish father, 18-month-old at home.
Yeah.
Are you already thinking about your next generation joining the business? Has that even crossed your mind yet?
Not really crossed my mind, but like I guess always an option. But yeah, I haven't really crossed my mind all that much yet. Right now, we're just working on our colors and animals. So
some mold spores come later.
But mold spores come later. We have been to the office and sat in Grandpa's chair a few times though. So
he'll be setting up equipment and putting up drywall in a couple of years. Though, you're right.
Not too far away.
He'll be able to pretend to clean pretty soon.
Yeah, exactly. Pretend to sweep the floors, hide in the corner.
So what kind of advice would you have for other maybe brothers going into business together, or siblings, or even family members? Like, what would you tell them that they should look at, or what do you wish you knew when you joined the business 10, 12 years ago?
I'd probably say, no matter what, if it's a family member, treat that family member as if you deal with a regular employee, that you kind of treat them in the exact same way. Give them kind of updates, make sure you give them the privacy they need, give them the time they need. Don't just expect because it's a family member that you can barge into their office and demand them to do a whole bunch of things. You kind of have to treat them as another employee in the business, and everything kind of works out from there. I don't know if you have anything to add.
I guess, if for brothers or siblings joining a business, maybe try to figure out what your strengths are, and hopefully they complement each other, and that's probably something you could do. But everything else is kind of what you said.
I guess one thing is it might not be your brothers or your direct family, but always be careful how much family you do involve too. So It can work out very well, or else it could affect your family in the future. We've had different people we've brought on in the past that are cousins or uncles or different things like that. Some work amazing, some don't work great. So always be very particular on what you're looking for and how you're going to kind of treat that relationship, because it's a special type of business and it doesn't always work. So really put the time into thinking about who you're going to get involved, and friends and family. Always think about that.
Yeah, especially with smaller businesses too, like the impact that one new person can make sometimes can be huge.
Yeah, for sure. I think another thing too is when it comes to perks, don't make sure your family is treated exactly the way everybody else is. You don't get extra vacation because it doesn't look very good from the rest of the business, right? That person doesn't get to show up late, and that's a big thing our dad's always kind of said. You can't show up to 8:15 into the office and expect everyone else to be here at 8, because then everyone else is going to start showing up at 8:15. You got to set an example from the beginning. And he's been very big on no special treatment for us. I mean, yeah, we do get some things obviously with the family, but treat everybody as if they're the rest of the staff.
Yeah. And did both of you go in reporting to your dad, or did you have kind of like different structures in place?
I don't think either of us reported to our dad. I had a manager. Well, I've had 2 or 3 different managers, I guess, over the years. Not anymore so much. I guess we kind of report to him now, but in the last year is kind of the only time we ever have. Before that, we've always had somebody else. We had a GM who passed away in 2020, so I reported to him for probably 4 or 5 years. So
yeah, now it's not even really reporting. It's more of just all working together. All CC'd in probably too many emails. But yeah, he's brought us in to be involved in almost every aspect of the business. And it's not that we're gathering stuff and reporting to him. It's kind of like we're all working together, and it's great you have those people you can trust. Because in business, you can't always do that. But when you say, hey, Kevin, go make a decision, we know you're going to do the right thing. It's not really reporting to anymore. It's more of we're all working together. Here's our different areas we can work in and make it work for the team.
Yeah. So what does the structure look like right now if, say, the two of you disagree with something? Well, what would you do? Do you go to dad? Do you work through it?
Well, we do have some other owners too. So we put a lot of our decisions to committee. Like there's 6 of us, I guess.
Yep.
Kind of minority owners as well. Like ultimately everything's up to my dad, I guess. Like he's still the majority shareholder. But like a lot of our decisions are kind of made by committee.
Okay.
So yeah, you kind of get an equal-ish vote, and ultimately if my dad thinks it's the best decision to go whatever he thinks, then that's what we go with for now. But
it's monthly, weekly management meetings, quarterly meetings, kind of bring those difficult topics or disagreement areas to the group and see what everybody else is thinking.
Okay.
Every so often you might have a 3-3 divide down the middle, and then it's okay, Grant, what are we doing?
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of the time, a lot of us are agreeing.
It doesn't happen a lot. It's like usually a 5-1 or like not a lot, or 6-0. Like it's not, we don't have a ton.
But yeah, I guess if there is a disagreement, you could always go, we got a CFO, you could ask the CFO their opinion from the accounting side of things. You could go ask our operations manager, hey, what do you think's right here? Is Kevin completely wrong, or am I completely wrong?
Yeah.
We're in such different areas of the business that a lot of the time we're not even really thinking about the same stuff. So that's kind of a plus part of it.
Yeah.
Like if we're talking about building a new building, and I'm probably not even going to have an opinion, because if I'm building it, we probably won't get another job from that client. And then if it's kind of like, what are we sponsoring? What kind of different things are we doing for the community? Mostly that kind of stuff I'm making a decision and kind of just filling Kevin and Grant in.
Okay.
So there's not a ton we're disagreeing with, which is pretty nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that's kind of changed over the past year. Is that when you both became owners? Like, talk to me about that process, if you don't mind.
It's been about 3 years, I'd say, since we kind of joined the ownership team. But since we actually kind of moved more into a management role, or like actually looking at some of the aspects of the business, that's kind of about 1.5 years, I'd say, ago. Before that, I pretty much just ran projects. So as like any other project manager, we have, I think, 16 project managers right now. So I was running my day-to-day very similar to the other 15 people. You've kind of always been like there's nobody else that does your job. So it's a little bit different for you, I guess.
Yeah, for quite a long time, I kind of reported. I would come up with, here's my ideas, go talk to our general manager and say, hey, what do you think of all these ideas? Most of the time it'd be like, yep. Or every so often, no, you want to spend that much on a sponsorship? So the only thing that's really changed is we don't have a current general manager. We're kind of handling that together.
Okay.
So involved in more areas. Not a ton has really changed though. We're kind of in our own areas making decisions and going from there.
Yeah. And if we don't want to or to go back to that ownership question, what did that look like? Was it an opportunity your dad presented? Was it something you guys both brought up? How did that, how did getting involved in the ownership relatively early in your careers happen?
Yeah, I think it was always in his mind. It wasn't when it was going to happen, it wasn't if it was going to happen. It was when. Mm-hmm. I think he kind of wanted to wait until the time that we've both shown him that we're kind of dedicated to the company. It's not going to be, all right, you've been working here for 6 months, here's ownership.
Yep.
I think it was probably 5 years full time for me,
probably
maybe
7.
even 7 for Kevin. Yeah, and then he actually presented it to us. We never really asked ourselves. He said, hey, I want to kind of bring you guys in, have a vested interest in the business. And then we were pretty lucky. He gave us we had to pay for it. Unfortunately, we didn't just get handed over. I wish that would have been kind of nice, but
we still have shareholder loans that we have to pay back eventually. But
we got our shareholder loans, but he made it a good agreement for us, and now we just got to work hard for the next however many years it takes to pay off that loan and maybe start getting some dividends from it one day.
One day, we'll see.
Yeah, well, and that's the way. There should be that. There needs to be a business valuation. There needs to be that structure set up.
Yeah. Well, if it's the type of business where it's just handed over, it never really goes well. Not a lot of the staff really have respect for those. You got to kind of build your respect in the office and get everyone to trust you and go for there.
It's like giving your kid a car and not expecting it to come trashed a month later. So, I think buying into it, you have an interest in it. So, and we had to work towards kind of paying loans off and stuff. So,
yeah, and it kind of shows commitment and buy-in as well.
Exactly.
So did either of you notice a change in your attitude at work or your outlook at work when you became both a family member and an employee, but when you kind of completed the circle and also became an owner?
I would say it was kind of hand in hand with me maybe just maturing a little bit. When I was younger, it was kind of I'm just working. I just want to go hang out with my friends type thing. Mm-hmm. I think as I got older, I also became a part owner kind of at the same time. And then you start realizing, hey, I got to keep an eye on areas that aren't just about sales and marketing. If I see someone that's upset about something, I go talk to them and see if there's a way I can fix it. Just seeing an overarching view of the business instead of just your one area you're working in. Yeah. I think for me, it's more I kind of started to mature and realize there's more than just hanging out with your friends and doing things on the weekend. Kind of in line. I don't know about you.
Yeah,
I didn't have a ton of change, I don't think. I kind of always ran similar. I've always been pretty committed to education, and I got my master water and fire restore before I was even an owner, and wanted to do that. So it didn't really change a ton for me, other than kind of maybe focusing on some of that other stuff, what's best for the company. Maybe not what's not best for my file. What's if I have to give up a carpenter and one of my files goes off track, but is that best for the company? So maybe a little bit more vision into that than I had before, I'd say.
Yeah. Okay. And then, so ServiceMaster itself is a larger organization. I believe it's a franchise model. Yeah. What's that experience been like? What is it? How does that fit into kind of your family values and working with a larger entity?
So ServiceMaster is kind of there's a big parent company. ServiceMaster owns a couple different divisions of businesses, but the two kind of main ones that relate to ServiceMaster itself are ServiceMaster Restore and ServiceMaster Clean. Okay. ServiceMaster Restore is our business. It's all insurance claims, restoring buildings. ServiceMaster Clean is the cleaning side. So it's commercial cleaning, janitorial cleaning, and carpet cleaning. Okay. So we don't have any interest in the clean side of things. Okay. But it's a franchise. I think there's 74 franchises in Canada, 7 in Alberta. It's really cool. You have a great known name across the whole country, not only just country, but North America. So it's very helpful in bringing in more business, getting trust from insurance companies, from national companies out there. I think it's been a great experience. We get to go to conferences every year. There's a national conference in Canada. There's a North American national conference. It's in LA actually this year in a month. Nice. And the cool thing about that is you go to these conferences and there's 2 to 4 owners from every single business, and you get to hear about their experiences, what's working, what's not working, how do you think the franchise team's doing. It's invaluable to hear from them. We've been to tons of different states. We're even friends with different people. We're good friends with the people that own ServiceMaster in Seattle. We've gone there and watched football games with them, learned their processes for contents and stuff like that. Nice. It's great being in a franchise.
Yeah, so kind of can support both kind of from the learnings, and then also you have other peers around that you can learn from and get ideas from.
Yeah, we steal the ideas all the time. It's go to their business in whatever, St. Louis or Seattle, and that's a good idea. Well, we're going to bring that back. So it's Yeah, we did actually host, I think, 10 US businesses in Edmonton, probably about, not quite 10 years ago, probably about 8 years ago. So, and they all kind of learned from us. So, and actually the couple from Texas said Edmonton is their favorite place they've ever visited because they're very into historical stuff, and they loved Fort Edmonton, and they went to Banff and Jasper. So it's hard to, they're pretty nice. We take for granted what we have. It's pretty nice here. So
yeah, no, that's for sure. And so if you think about kind of ServiceMaster 10 years from now, where do you see kind of your organization and the company going? What's new? What are you excited about? What are you scared about? I know that's a big question.
Yeah. Like for us, it's tough to project growth because it really does depend on cats and all that kind of stuff. So growth is tough for us to project down to exact, but maybe territory changes, or maybe we work with some of the other franchises in Alberta more, because we currently don't do a ton of that. That's kind of, it is tough to project growth for sure for us.
I think one big change in ServiceMaster as a whole in Canada is we have a program called SRM coming out, which is developed through ServiceMaster Canada head office.
Okay.
It's kind of our brand's way of competing for national contracts. So right now we have some competitors in Canada that they own every single location across the country. So they can go to the Costco's and Walmarts of the world and say, hey, if you want restoration help in all of Canada, you can call this one number and we'll help you out anywhere you are. Whereas for our franchise, it's like, hey, you want help in Canada? Here's 74 numbers. Call us. And so they're developing a plan right now called SRM that is kind of a centralized model where we all work together and we can all benefit from these contracts together. Nice. So that's a big thing that it's happening right now. It'll probably start working in the next couple of years. And then I think a big thing just personally from a local level is we want to just keep getting more and more involved in the community. Our goal in the next 10 years is give $1 million back to the community from the different events we host every year. So if we can get to that goal, I think that's a big point of success for us. So
yeah, nice. And so when you look at kind of the community involvement, community engagement, what kind of things do you like to do? Like, how do you give back? How do you work to kind of build the brand? But also, like, is there certain areas that you focus on? Like, what does that look like?
So just in the past probably 3 years, we've started focusing a lot more on the community stuff and getting involved in different non-for-profits and everything like that. We host an annual golf tournament every year. It's kind of the same thing last Thursday of August, and we partner with a local charity to donate all of the proceeds to. Nice. So our first year we did the Heart and Stroke Foundation. Next year we did Zebra Center, and then this year we did the Little Warriors. Yep. So every year we plan on doing that, which is a big thing for us because we get to invite all of our clients, and then we get to raise as much money as we can for those charities. Yep. Same time as that, we do our poker tournament every year. So that's kind of a networking type of event, but when you bring a lot of people into a room, it's why don't you involve a non-for-profit and make some money for the community as well. Yep. So we actually have that on February 6th, so that's coming up. Nice. This year we chose Little Warriors as well, so we kind of do it dual. We choose one non-for-profit to do for the year, and then every year we've been choosing new ones. Yep. And kind of based off of our big thing we've done lately is just kids. So Zebra Center has to do with kids, Little Warriors has to do with kids. We also do the Make-A-Wish Foundation Heroes Challenge every year, which is a big corporate event at West Edmonton Mall, where you go as a team. So it's a team building activity with 10 to 12 of our staff, and then you try to raise $10,000 to make a wish come true. Okay. So almost all of our stuff these days is kids. However, we kind of wait for stuff in our life to happen. If something happens in our family or something happens in our business where it's like, we should go to this charity because that's going to support that cause. We haven't specifically said it's only kids, but that's just kind of something that's touched us in the last little while.
Pretty much, yeah. And you take care of most of that anyways. So yeah, he plans our golf tournament and poker tournament. And luckily I don't have to do too much with that because it's a lot of work. Yeah. But
I think that actually might have been the first time I came across and kind of recently was at a golf tournament. You guys had like the burger truck. Yeah. No, or chicken wings.
Chicken wings. Yeah. We're pretty known for our mini donuts. Okay. Go to a lot of golf tournaments every year. We had a mini donut machine. So people were like, you guys are the mini donut company, are you? It's like, yeah, I guess so. You can call us that if you want. Yeah. I think we even got a Google review at one point. These guys make really good mini donuts. They're like, oh yeah, there we go. Yeah. It's
like the popcorn at Totem back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah. So we try to get to tons. Like we do probably 15 golf tournaments a year, sponsoring holes and giving back to the community that way. Great way to connect with clients and stuff too. So yeah.
Nice. And when you think about kind of succession for the organization and growth, you don't know how much of a role your dad's going to have in 20 years. What what conversations are you having around that? What do you see for, the future leadership? Do you know it's going to be one of you? Do you know it's going to be both of you? Do you think you're going to hire it from external? Like any guesses or conversations there that you can share?
Not a ton, but our dad is 67 this year. So he's probably, I think he's got a 70. I think he wants to be retired by 70 for sure. So we are on a little bit of a timetable, I guess. Every year it's one more year. So we'll see once we actually get there. But I don't think we have a solid plan yet. I think it's something we need to probably focus on in the next couple of years. But no, as of right now, I guess we'll probably just both kind of work on stuff. And we do have some other owners that are involved. So we'll probably continue on. And we've kind of made those owners are key parts of the business as well. So,
okay. So they're active as
they're
well.
active. You have, all of our owners are active in the business, and that's part of the requirement. We don't have any non-active owners. Okay. So, and they're all key employees that do lots of sales and are good at their job. So, I don't think we've thought about it a ton yet, but unless Jason's thought about it more than I have.
Well, I know our dad will be upset he called him 67 because he's actually turned 65 this year. So if he watches this, he's going to be in trouble.
You're getting a couple points right there.
I'm rounding out.
I think it's going to depend on when my mom says you're done, because she's getting tired of him being on his phone all the time while they're trying to enjoy their retirement life, right? I don't see it being anytime soon. Maybe in the next 5-10 years, it'll just keep slowing down. But me, Kevin, we got our 3 other partners in the business. I think we could probably take on things ourselves. They're all very smart people and really good at what they do. Yep. And then just the whole team built underneath it. Like, we have amazing staff that could help us in pretty much every way we need. So I think it'll probably be the 5 of us going from there, and hopefully we don't screw things up without Grant.
Yeah. Well, and there's a bunch of models out there within family business where you'll see co-CEOs who are siblings, and it's not as popular in Canada. In the UK, especially Ireland, it's all over the place. Okay, you see like multi-generation 2, 3, 4 kids running the business together.
Yeah, I think that's probably what it'll be like. It'll be something like that for sure. Or the operations side with him, and more of the client side kind of stay with me, and then the other 3. They keep taking on more and more, and they're very motivated to help the business be successful too. So I think we're in good hands right now.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I don't know. That was kind of a left field question, but it's one of those ones that is, awkward silence. That's the theme of this podcast. That'd be a terrible thing for a podcast, actually. But
I don't know.
So when you think about learning and growth, so one of the things I like to ask just about everyone on the podcast is, recommendations or books or things like that have changed the way you look at business or life. Okay. Any ideas to throw out there from either of you?
Well, like the last 15-ish months, we've been kind of following traction a lot. Okay. So really trying to we didn't really have a lot of organization. Everything was kind of responding to the fire, I guess, if you will. And we didn't have a lot of planning. What are we going to do in 6 months? What are we going to do in a year? What are we going to do in 10 years? Mm-hmm. So we've been following traction a lot more. We've been doing kind of L10 meetings and stuff like that. So that's probably the one I would go with. I think Jason probably reads more books than I do, but
1 and 2. Yeah. We definitely had EOS kind of customized to ourselves. We work with Results here in Edmonton. Yep. They've been an awesome company to work with. We always found that we'd have great meetings with our whole management team. There'd be tons of good topics come up. And then we'd wait another month for our next meeting or 3 months for our quarterly meeting. And we're like, okay, well, what happened with all these great ideas? So working with Results, it's been great. We kind of have our business execution specialist that keeps us all accountable, gets a champion for all these different areas we're working on. That's definitely one I would recommend to any business if you kind of want to take it to the next level. Get yourself goals quarterly, annually. We have our 3-year goal. We have 10-year goals. They've been really awesome. And it's just someone kind of leads your meeting that's an outside perspective on everything. Yeah. That's probably one of the biggest recommendations I use.
And they really help hold you accountable too.
Oh yeah. Cause it's hard to keep you're all partners. It's hard to be like, Kevin, did you do this? Whereas her, she's like, I don't care. I'll ask him whatever. Yeah. Kevin, why don't you get your stuff done? Where you don't really want that tension within the business between us. Yep. So yeah, Results has been a really big thing. Honestly, one recommendation I do is I go to a lot of conferences and trade shows and stuff like that. Yep. Make sure you spend time listening to keynote speakers and buy those books that they sell after, because those are always really motivational. You can get good leadership skills, good teamwork skills. Yep. Every time at our ServiceMASTER conventions, they have them, and they kind of inspire me to kind of go to the next level or read a book and go from there. So yeah, try to get in front of keynote speakers if you can.
Yeah. Can you think about maybe one of those speakers that stands out for you?
So there's one at a ServiceMASTER conference. I can't remember the guy's name,
like the
but
ship.
it was called It's Your Ship. Yeah. So it's about a captain in the Navy that he took over a ship and he changed the ship from the lowest ranking ship to the highest ranking ship. And do you know what book I'm referencing?
I do, yeah.
I can't remember.
I think it's called It's Your Ship, but I can't remember.
It's Your Ship, but I don't remember the guy's name.
Yeah, and it's like painting the boat with
painting the boat, and then like instead of going around getting mad at people for doing things wrong, go around the boat and find people that are doing things right.
Yeah.
The kind of attitude was always like, oh, hide, watch out, the like leader of the ship's coming, right? And now it's like, oh, everybody go out there and get in the open because he's coming. You might get a reward sometime, right? Yeah. That was a very eye-opening one. We both read it. I know right after we saw him talk.
Yeah, it was a really good speech. I think he even talked about like something about like you're only allowed to give out like 10 of these accommodation things where they get like extra points on their exam or something. And he's like, in my first year, I gave out like 200. And like, nobody gave me shit. He's like, that's just what I did. And like, it's a pretty cool book. So he's a cool speaker.
Something Abraham.
Yeah, could be.
But, or even just like, they've never had a captain of the ship eat with the rest of the crew. So he would make sure he always went and ate with everybody else in the cafeteria instead of up in his fancy office. Mm-hmm. That's just something I've always tried to bring into our business. Like, I'm not too good for anything. I can go help out crews with demolition work, with sucking up water. Mm-hmm. I might not be very good at it. It might take me a while to turn on our equipment, but I'll figure it out.
But you being there and trying and learning sends that right message.
Yeah, and we try to get that to all of our staff. Just because you're a project manager doesn't make you too good to do this. Just because you're a crew chief doesn't make you too good to do the technician's work. Yeah. We even have like Taryn, she's one of our partners. She did a final clean by herself. She's like, well, we're almost at cost for this file. Let's go clean it ourselves. So we have really good staff in that way. And that's probably a book I would recommend is that one. Okay.
Yeah, no, we'll throw it in the show notes. It's in the top of my head.
It's something at Abraham, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, and he's like a lieutenant colonel or
exactly
something like that.
Yeah.
I can see the picture.
I have the book in my office.
Yeah. So I can see the book in my mind, but I can't remember his name either.
The Beck's conference always has very good speakers too. Yeah. Last year was my first year, and there was very good speakers there, motivational. So
no, I'm looking forward to this year as well. It's going to be a fun event.
Yeah.
So when you think about kind of legacy, kind of wrap things up a little bit, kind of the legacy of either kind of the Miller family or your dad's legacy. And I know he's only 65; he's not going anywhere. But what do you think is he going to be most proud of? What do you two want to be most proud of when you look at this business and what it's done?
That's a tough question too, but I think he's always been kind of family focused. So I think his family maybe is his legacy kind of thing. And like he does a lot more now. Like he wants to do more of the charitable stuff for kids and stuff. I think our mission statement, I guess, is restoring peace of mind. So he's kind of always gone with that and trying to help people where we can. Like quite often we'll see something, like he'll see something on the news and like just email us or text us and be like, oh, we should do something about this. I'm like, well, okay, we'll figure out something. But I think that's kind of, unless anything you have to add.
I think something he'd always want to be remembered for is just always having that open door policy. Mm-hmm. He's always been known for the guy that he's one of those people, if you're emailing him, he has to be the guy that sends the last email. So it's kind of like, thanks for sending this. And they're like, no problem, have a good one. He's like, well, have a good one, thank you. No matter who it is, he will make the time of day to talk to our brand new technician that might be making the least money in the company or our highest paid person. Mm-hmm. No matter what, he tries to help people. We have families that work for us. We have people that have come from different countries around the world that have come to work for us. And I think that's probably a big thing, is just making a difference in all of our staff's lives, because we've done a lot of that. And I know that is something that makes me feel good. I'm sure it makes him feel good too. Yeah.
Nice. Anything that either of you want to add before we kind of wrap up? Anything that you thought I would ask or that you're dying to share?
I don't think I have anything.
No, like embarrassing stories.
No, I don't have too many embarrassing stories I want to bring up. There's a couple out there.
I'm sure.
No, I think I've pretty much got everything. We really appreciate you having us on the show.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you both very much. Kevin, Jason, thank you for sharing your journeys and your insights with us today. Really kind of shows, a lot of the things I took out of this conversation was just the importance of those family values and kind of following in the leadership that your dad showed and a lot of those things in the community and in the company. And really about being adaptable and how you build a business and learning from those cats. A new industry term I learned today. Learning from those cats.
Oh yeah.
And just if anyone wants to learn more about ServiceMaster Restore of Edmonton or either of you, how should they find you? How should they connect? If they want to find someone that's going to come do their next restoration project, what do they do?
Restoration project, you can find us obviously online. You can find our main number and we'd be happy to help. Maybe reference, if you're ever calling because of the show, reference it. I'd love to know that and come meet you and go from there. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. So if anybody on LinkedIn wants to reach out to me on there, I'm always happy to meet people no matter what industry you're from. If you're an insurance broker, obviously I'm going to be really excited. If you're a homeowner that's trying to start a business, I'd be happy to help you out. One thing I've learned kind of from my role over the last couple of years is no matter who it is, you could work with them in the future. Go take the time to meet them for coffee and kind of help them if you can, because it'll always come back and help you in the future. But yeah, LinkedIn's probably the best way for me.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you both again. Enjoyed the conversation immensely.
Thank you. Appreciate you having us on here.